All right, let's dive into Genesis 14 today.
Oh, yeah, Genesis 14.
It's a story with kings and battles,
Then rescues.
a daring rescue.
Yeah.
It's Abram and his nephew, Lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the ancient Near East.
Right, lots of power struggles.
Yeah, like Game of Thrones.
With chariots and sandals.
Okay, so the Valley of Siddim is where a lot of this takes place.
Yeah, that was a strategically important area.
Okay.
It might have been near the Dead Sea.
Interesting.
And get this, it was known for its asphalt pits.
Asphalt pits.
Yeah, can you imagine fighting a battle surrounded by sticky tar?
Whoa, that'd be messy.
Yeah.
Then there are these kings with crazy names.
Yeah, like Amraphel,
Yordolomer.
Kedorlaomer. They sound like they're straight out of a fantasy novel.
Right. Who were these guys?
Well, some scholars think that Amraphel might actually be Hammurabi.
Hammurabi.
Yeah, the famous Babylonian king.
Wow.
As for Chedorlaomer, he was the king of Elam, a powerful kingdom to the east.
So these were major players in the ancient world.
Oh, yeah, not just some local chieftains.
Okay, so we've got these kings vying for control.
And then some of them rebel against Chedorlaomer.
After serving him for 12 years.
Yeah, talk about a power struggle.
And that's where Abram's nephew Lot gets caught in the crossfire.
Right, he was living in Sodom?
One of the cities that rebel.
And when Chedorlaomer crushes the rebellion, Lot and all his possessions are taken captive.
What happens next?
Well, Abram hears about it, and he immediately rallies his 318 trained servants.
Wow, imagine the loyalty.
I know, right?
318 men ready to fight at his side?
It's remarkable.
And it wasn't just a spontaneous reaction.
No, Abram was a smart guy. He used military tactics.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He divides his forces.
Okay.
Launches a surprise night attack.
Wow.
And pursues those captors all the way to Hobah.
Hobah, where's that?
North of Damascus.
That's a long way.
Hundreds of miles.
But he was determined to rescue Lot.
And he did, spoiler alert.
He brought back everyone and everything.
Totally defeated those other kings.
Epic victory.
But wait, there's more.
Oh.
After the battle, Abram encounters this mysterious figure, Melchizedek.
Melchizedek.
King of Salem.
Okay.
Also described as a priest of God Most High.
God Most High.
Yeah, this is one of the first times we see that title used.
So not just some local deity.
Right, it suggests a broader understanding of God.
And Abram accepts a blessing from Melchizedek.
Yeah.
And even gives him a tenth of everything he's recovered.
That's huge.
Makes you rethink the timeline of religious beliefs, you know?
Absolutely, it raises all sorts of questions.
Like about the origins of monotheism.
Yeah, and the development of religious ideas.
So we've got Abram, fresh off this victory, meets this priestly king.
And then the king of Sodom shows up, grateful to have his people back.
Makes sense.
Offers Abram a deal.
What kind of deal?
He can keep all the goods.
Right.
If he just returns the people.
I'd be tempted.
Right. It's a generous offer.
What did Abram do?
Well, this is where Abram's character really shines.
Oh.
He refuses.
What?
He says he swore to God Most High
Oh.
that he wouldn't take anything from Sodom.
Talk about integrity.
I know, right?
Why do you think he was so insistent?
That's a great question.
I mean, it's not every day you get offered that kind of wealth.
It reveals something about his understanding of true blessing.
Where it comes from.
Exactly. And that leads us into some deeper theological water.
Deeper waters.
Yeah, we'll dive into that more in the next part of our deep dive.
Abram just turned down a king's ransom.
He did.
It's like he was saying, I'd rather be right with God than rich.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So this wasn't just about material possessions for Abram.
No, it was about acknowledging God.
As the ultimate source.
Yeah, of his provision and blessing.
So it's like a statement about where his allegiance lies.
Exactly. He didn't want anyone thinking his success was due to some human king.
Or any worldly power.
Right. He's making it clear that his trust is in God alone.
Which is pretty bold.
It is.
Considering he's surrounded by these powerful kings.
And empires, yeah.
It takes a lot of faith.
It does.
To stand up to the king of Sodom.
And say, no thanks, I'm good.
Especially back then.
Oh, yeah.
Accepting gifts from a king. A way to show respect.
And build alliances.
So Abram's refusal was...
kind of a radical act.
Yeah.
Almost a prophetic statement.
This episode in Abram's life.
It foreshadows a major theme in the Bible.
Okay.
The tension between trusting God
and
relying on worldly power or wealth.
We still grapple with that today, don't we?
But dude.
It's like putting your faith in something bigger than yourself.
Versus going for the quick and easy reward.
Yeah, we're bombarded with messages these days telling us to chase wealth and status.
And security.
But Abram's story,
it reminds us
that true security and fulfillment
come from a different source.
Our worth isn't tied to what we own.
Or what others think of us.
Right. It's about our relationship with God.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Melchizedek.
Okay.
He's not just a random side note in this story.
How so?
Well, Melchizedek is described as a priest of God Most High.
Right.
So he represents a different kind of authority, a spiritual authority.
That transcends earthly kingdoms.
Right.
So by accepting Melchizedek's blessing
and giving him a tithe,
Abram is acknowledging a higher power than the king of Sodom.
You got it.
It's like he's saying, my allegiance is to God.
Not to any human ruler.
So Abram's encounter with Melchizedek reinforces his decision to rely on God.
Rather than seeking wealth from a worldly source.
It's like a confirmation that he's on the right path.
That his trust in God is well placed.
Again, super relevant for us.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in worldly success.
Yeah.
Abram reminds us that there's something more important.
Right. Our ultimate goal should be to align ourselves with God's purposes.
Not to chase after fleeting things.
Like wealth or fame.
It makes you wonder what would have happened if Abram had taken the offer.
It does.
Would he have still become the father of a nation?
Who knows?
Would his descendants have inherited God's blessings?
That's a fascinating question.
We can only speculate.
But Abram's decision to honor God?
Yeah, it probably played a crucial role.
Yeah, in shaping his destiny.
This whole story with Lot, him getting captured.
And Abram rescuing him.
It kind of sets the stage for later on in Genesis.
It does, the tension between them.
Foreshadows the separation of their families.
And the different paths they take.
Lot chooses to settle in the Jordan Valley.
Yeah, near Sodom.
Abram continues to follow God.
And we all know how that turns out for Sodom.
Let's just say it doesn't end well.
A story for another deep dive.
Okay, so we've covered Abram's refusal, the significance of Melchizedek.
And how this story sets the stage.
Anything else we should unpack from this chapter?
Well, there's one more detail.
Yeah.
Abram's victory.
Yeah.
It involved military strategy.
He didn't just wander into battle.
No, he planned his attack, divided his forces, launched a surprise night raid.
So he was a man of action.
He was.
A leader who took initiative.
Absolutely.
Used his God-given abilities.
To achieve his goals.
This is important.
Yes.
Sometimes we think that faith means sitting back.
And waiting for God to do everything.
But Abram shows us that faith and action go hand in hand.
Yeah. God often works through our efforts.
Through our willingness to step out in faith.
And use our talents.
To accomplish his purposes.
That's a powerful message.
For all of us.
Yeah, no matter what.
Our backgrounds.
Our beliefs.
Whether we're facing a challenge.
Pursuing a dream.
Or just trying to live a life that matters.
You can draw inspiration from Abram.
He teaches us that we can trust God.
And rely on his strength.
And use our abilities to make a difference.
It's not just about waiting for miracles.
Right.
It's about actively partnering with God.
And using our gifts.
To bring about his will.
That's a perfect segue.
Into our final part.
We've talked about Abram's faith, integrity, his military prowess.
But what about his relationship with God?
Yeah.
How does this story deepen our understanding of his journey of faith?
Let's explore that.
In more detail.
When we return.
For the final part of our deep dive.
This story, even though it happens thousands of years ago, still speaks to us.
It does.
We're all on these journeys of faith.
Yeah, figuring out what it means to trust God.
And live a life that honors him.
Absolutely. And I think Abram's story in Genesis 14.
It offers a powerful example of what it looks like.
To walk by faith.
Even when things get messy.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't some theoretical faith.
Right. He's facing real life challenges.
Making tough decisions.
Leading people.
Fighting battles.
And through it all,
we see his trust in God.
Abram leaves his homeland.
Travels to a foreign land.
Faces famine.
Deals with kings.
Conflicts.
He never loses sight of God's promises.
It's like he's constantly reminding himself.
And everyone around him.
That God is in control.
Even when things seem chaotic.
And that's encouraging for us.
It is. It's a reminder that no matter what we're facing.
Yeah.
No matter how difficult things seem.
We can trust in God.
His faithfulness and goodness.
And it's not just about trusting in God's protection.
Right.
It's about aligning our heart,
our actions,
with His will.
Even when it means making sacrifices.
Or turning down a good deal.
Like when the king of Sodom offers Abram all that wealth.
Yeah, what a test.
Of his faith.
And his integrity.
Who wouldn't be tempted?
But Abram knew that true wealth and blessing,
they come from somewhere else.
He understood that his ultimate reward
wasn't earthly possessions
or the approval of men.
His reward was the fulfillment of God's promises.
The inheritance of a land.
The legacy of a nation.
So he's playing the long game.
He is. He's focused on the eternal.
Not the temporary.
And that perspective.
That willingness to put God first.
That's what sets Abram apart.
And that kind of faith
changes the world.
Inspires generation.
And leaves a lasting impact. Abram's story isn't just about him.
Right.
It's about God's plan for humanity.
His desire to bless all nations.
Through Abram's descendants.
And it all starts with his trust.
Yeah, his belief that God will keep his promises.
No matter what. So what's the most important takeaway for our listeners?
I think it's that true faith.
Huh?
It's not passive.
Not about sitting back.
Right. It's about partnering with God.
Using our gifts.
Our resources.
To advance His purposes.
Just like Abram.
We're called to be people of action.
People of integrity.
People who trust God.
And live in a way that honors Him.
We've got to be willing to say no.
To things that seem good.
But could lead us away from God.
Like Abram turning down the king of Sodom.
We need to be discerning.
And make choices that align with our ultimate goal.
To know God.
And make Him known.
Sometimes that means being countercultural.
Going against the grain.
Even if it costs us something.
Because in the end,
it's not about what we gain,
but what we invest in eternity.
This has been great.
It has.
I hope everyone listening is feeling inspired by Abram.
Yeah, full of adventure,
intrigue,
and spiritual truth.
That are still relevant today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
On this journey.
Through Genesis 14.
Keep digging deeper.
Into God's Word.
Discovering those treasures.
Until next time.